You have a family. You have friends. You have followers. And yet, in a moment of true silence, without your phone, without noise, without anyone around, you feel an emptiness you can't quite explain. Do you know where that emptiness comes from? It comes from the fact that you spent entire years building a life for others to see and forgot to build a life for you to live. Today you are going to meet a man who was destroying everything he loved because of this, and you will understand how the philosophy of a samurai who lived alone for decades and died in peace completely changed the course of his life. There is a silent pattern corroding relationships, destroying finances, and draining the mental health of millions of people around the world. A person has a job, a family, an active social circle. From the outside, everything seems to be in place. But on the inside, they live in a race that never ends. A race after something that never truly arrives, the approval of others. And the harder they run, the further they get from themselves. Researchers at the University of Michigan documented this phenomenon with clinical precision. The use of social media as a tool for social comparison is directly linked to higher levels of anxiety, depression, and chronic dissatisfaction with one's own life. But the most disturbing piece of data from that study wasn't that. It was the fact that most people living this way don't even realize it. They think they are being social, that they are connecting, that they are being present for the people around them, when in reality they are completely absent from themselves. The good news is there is a way out. And it was documented nearly 400 years ago by a man who never lost a single duel. Not because he was invincible, but because he had won the hardest battle of all, the battle against the need for approval. That man was Miyamoto Musashi. And the teachings he left behind before dying, condensed into a code called Dokkōdō, combined with two timeless practices called Hitori and Seijaku, form a system of thought capable of freeing anyone from this invisible prison. Remember these names, because before the end of this video you will understand why they might be exactly what you needed to hear today. If you've ever felt this emptiness, this feeling of always chasing something that never arrives, click the like button right now so this video can reach more people who need to hear this. Now, meet Christian. Chapter 1. The Life That Seemed Perfect. Christian woke up every day with the exact same ritual, before getting up, before looking at the ceiling, before even feeling the weight of his own body on the bed. His hand would already reach for his phone, notifications, messages, likes, comments. That was how the day began. That was how the day ended. Bella, his wife, was lying right next to him, always. But Christian rarely noticed her in the morning, because his attention was already trapped by the screen before his vision could even adjust to the morning light of the bedroom. He was 35 years old, 2 children sleeping in the room next door, a job that paid the bills, when the bills were reasonable, a home of his own, a marriage that on paper worked perfectly. But Christian lived under a constant pressure he never stopped to name. It was the fear of being forgotten, the fear of being left out by his friends, the fear of looking uncool, outdated, or boring. The fear that if he said no just once, the group would move on without him, and he would be left behind, alone, irrelevant. So, he never said no. When his friends called him to go out on a Tuesday night, he went. Even if Bella had asked him to stay, even if his kids had gone to sleep without saying goodnight to their father once again, even if his credit card was already at its limit, he went. Always. And on social media, he built a version of himself that barely existed outside the screen. The trips were real but paid for with loans, carrying interest rates he pretended not to see. The designer clothes were real, but they represented a financial black hole that grew every single month. The new car he was researching? A friend had just upgraded theirs. The comments had been endless. Christian wanted those same comments. Bella saw all of this. She stayed quiet. She absorbed it. She held it in. For a while. On a Thursday night, Christian's friends called him to go out again. Christian promised it would be quick, 2 hours at most, just a quick drink with the guys, and then straight home. He arrived after midnight. When he pushed the bedroom door open, the light was on. Bella was sitting on the edge of the bed. She wasn't waiting for a fight. She wasn't waiting for an explanation. She had made a decision. There was an expression in her eyes that Christian had never seen before. It wasn't built-up anger. It wasn't the frustration of another wasted night. It was something much more serious. It was clarity. Christian, I need to tell you something. And I need you to truly listen. Without defending yourself, without making promises, just listen. He sat on the bed. His heart raced. I feel alone inside my own marriage. Our children ask for their father on nights you are actually home, because even when you are physically here, you aren't really here. You are on your phone. You are thinking about your friends. You are anywhere but here. And the debts, Christian, we are drowning. Because of things you buy to impress people who won't even be here when everything goes wrong. She took a deep breath. I want a divorce. Despair hit him all at once. The promises, the crying, his voice cracking. Bella, I'll change. Just give me a chance. I swear I'll change. She stayed silent for a long moment. I'll give you 90 days. 90 days to show me you are capable of truly changing. I really want you to change. But I know you won't be able to do this alone. You are going to need help. She already had a contact saved on her phone. A therapist who wasn't highly famous but came highly recommended. His name was Dr. Mario Yamasaki. Look at your routine today. Is your phone the very first thing you touch when you wake up? Are your weekend choices made to please the people inside your home or to keep up appearances with people in a group chat? Sometimes, the price of being accepted by everyone else is becoming a complete stranger to the ones who matter most. Chapter 2. The man who studied Musashi his entire life. Dr. Mario Yamasaki's office smelled of old wood, with natural light filtering through a bamboo blind. He was 60 years old, of Japanese descent, entirely white hair, a measured voice, and the demeanor of someone who is never in a hurry. On the wall behind his desk hung a single framed phrase, in Japanese. Christian looked at it before he even sat down. What is written there? Mario answered without hesitation. Do nothing that is of no use. It is from the Dokkōdō. We will be talking a lot about it. In their first session, Mario didn't ask about Christian's childhood. He didn't ask about his parents' relationship, old traumas, or the first time he felt insecure. He asked a simple question. When was the last time you were completely alone in silence, without a phone, without a TV, without any distraction, and you felt perfectly fine with that? Christian thought. And he thought some more. Then he realized he couldn't answer. Mario nodded slowly, as if the absence of an answer was exactly the response he expected. Do you know who Miyamoto Musashi was? Christian knew vaguely. A famous samurai, Japanese. There was probably a movie about him. Musashi was the greatest swordsman in the history of Japan. He fought in over 60 duels and was never defeated. But what most people don't know is that the greatest battle of his life didn't happen against any enemy. It happened inside himself, against the need to be recognized, admired, and approved of. And he won that battle by choosing a path that very few have the courage to follow. Mario opened a drawer and pulled out a worn book with Japanese characters on the spine. In his final years of life, Musashi retreated to a cave called Reigando. There, with no audience, no disciples around him, and nothing left to prove to anyone, he wrote 2 texts that would change Eastern thought forever. The first was the Book of 5 Rings, on strategy and combat. The second was the Dokkōdō, 21 precepts written just 7 days before he died. What does Dokkōdō mean? Christian asked. Mario looked at him for a moment before answering. The path of walking alone. Dokkōdō, the code of those who don't need an audience. Mario placed the open book on the table and began to read, slowly, putting weight behind every line. Accept everything just as it is. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial feeling. Be detached from desire your whole life long. Never stray from the way. Christian listened in silence. Each precept felt like it was hitting a different wound, as if Musashi had written those words 4 centuries ago while looking specifically at his life. The Dokkōdō is often read as a manual of austerity, Mario said, closing the book carefully. As if Musashi were preaching a life of deprivation, rejecting everything that is good. But that interpretation misses the mark entirely. What Musashi was saying is something much more precise. As long as you depend on the opinions of others to feel whole, you will never be free. Because the opinions of others are unstable. Friends change, likes disappear, trends pass, and when all of that goes away, what is left? Christian didn't answer. What's left is who you are when nobody is watching, and most people are terrified of meeting that man. This was the moment Mario brought up the work of Arie Kruglanski, a psychologist from the University of Maryland, not as an abstract citation, but as a direct validation of what Christian was going through. Mario explained Kruglanski's decades of research into what he called the need for cognitive closure, the urgency the human brain feels for quick answers, certainty, and social validation. When this need becomes chronic, it begins to dictate a person's most important life decisions, often completely unconsciously. You don't wake up in the morning thinking, "Today I am going to look for approval," Mario explained. The mechanism is invisible. It operates beneath everything, and it keeps operating until the day someone, your wife, a child, a doctor, shows you the damage it has done. Take the Dokkōdō test today. The very next choice you have to make, whether it's buying something or accepting an invitation, ask yourself honestly, are you doing this because you truly want to, or because you are afraid of what they will think if you say no? Identifying the mechanism is the first step to breaking it. Christian stayed quiet. That last sentence was the exact description of his life over the past few years. Hitori, the art of existing without an audience. In their third session, Mario introduced the second pillar, Hitori. In Japanese, the word literally means one person, but culturally, it goes far beyond the direct translation. Hitori is the practice of doing things alone with dignity and full intention. Eating alone, walking alone, thinking alone, existing alone, without it being interpreted as a weakness, a rejection, or a social defeat. In Japan, Mario began, there is a practice called Hitori Yakiniku, solo barbecue. The idea of a person going to a barbecue restaurant, sitting in an individual booth, ordering their own meat and eating peacefully in no rush without needing to entertain anybody. To us Westerners, that sounds almost like a punishment. Eating alone in public carries a massive stigma. It looks like a sign that you have no friends, that you've been rejected, that something is wrong with you. Christian nodded. He felt exactly that way. But the Japanese see it differently. They developed physical spaces designed precisely for this experience, complete with partitions that guarantee privacy. It operates on the premise that being with yourself can be an act of pleasure, of restoration, of full presence. Hitori stems from a principle that Musashi practiced daily. You need to be enough for yourself before you can be anything to anyone else. I have never gone anywhere alone, Christian said, with an honesty that surprised him. Not since I was a teenager. I've always needed company for everything. And that carries a massive cost, Mario replied. When you are never alone, you never learn to truly know yourself. You build your identity based on the reflection that others give back to you. And when that reflection changes, when people change, when groups dissolve, when approval stops coming, you collapse, because you never built anything on the inside. This constant escape was perfectly described by the philosopher Erich Fromm in his work Escape from Freedom. He argued that modern human beings frequently flee from freedom because it implies responsibility, and responsibility implies solitude. It is much easier to conform, to please, and to follow the crowd than to face your own existence head-on. Hitori is the direct antidote to this pattern, the deliberate practice of existing without an audience. Mario proposed an exercise for the week. Simple. One activity, any activity, done completely alone, without a phone, and without the impulse to record it to post later. Just be. Christian chose to go for a walk, 1 hour in a park near his house on a Saturday morning. It sounded simple, but it wasn't. During the first 20 minutes, his hand reached for his pocket 4 times. His thoughts spun in a spiral. What were his friends doing? Was there a notification waiting? Was Bella still angry? Was he missing out on something important somewhere else? But after about 30 minutes, something shifted. The internal noise began to quiet down. He started to hear the birds. He felt the weight of his own footsteps on the ground. He noticed there was a tree in the middle of the park, a massive tree with a wide canopy that he had never noticed before, even though he had walked past that path hundreds of times. And for the first time in a very long time, he took a deep breath, a real one. Your challenge for this week is the exact same as Christians, the practice of Hitori. Dedicate 30 minutes of your day to walk or have a coffee completely alone. No headphones, no checking notifications, no taking photos for your stories. Sit with the initial discomfort and wait for it to pass. That is exactly where you begin to rebuild yourself. Chapter 3, Sejaku, the silence that reveals. In the 5th session, Mario spoke about the concept Christian resisted the most, Sejaku. In Japanese, the word translates to deep silence or internal stillness, but Sejaku is not simply the absence of external noise. It is something far more precise. It is the state of clarity that appears when you stop running from yourself, when you let the dust settle, when you allow silence to be habitable, instead of treating it as a threat that needs to be filled. It is the kind of silence that Zen monks cultivate over decades, the silence Musashi inhabited in the Reigando cave while writing. It arises not when everything is quiet around you, but when something inside you finally stops running. "Why are people so afraid of silence?" Christian asked one afternoon. Mario stayed quiet for a few seconds, not to think of an answer, but to let the question land. Because in silence, the questions appear, and the questions you have avoided for years are exactly the ones that hurt the most. Who am I without the approval of others? What do I actually want? What am I avoiding feeling? What am I delaying facing? That's unsettling. It is, but disruption and growth are the exact same thing, just at different stages of maturity. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of Nazi concentration camps and the founder of one of the most influential schools of modern psychology, wrote something that Mario placed on the desk that day, underlined in pencil. When a man cannot find meaning in his life, he replaces it with pleasure or power. Validation at its core is exactly that, an attempt to find meaning in the hands of others, an outsourcing to the external world of a task that can only be fulfilled from within. Musashi understood this with a clarity that few ever achieve, and Sejaku was his vehicle. Silence not as a punishment, but as a method, a space where the truth about yourself finally has the conditions to show up. Christian began to practice. 5 minutes a day, sitting in silence before going to sleep. No screen, no headphones, no external stimuli whatsoever. At first, 5 minutes felt like an eternity. After 3 weeks, he wanted 10. We live in an era of noise because we are terrified of what silence might reveal to us. But try starting with just 5 minutes tonight. Turn off the screens, sit on your bed, and simply observe your thoughts. What is your silence trying to tell you that you keep drowning out with noise? Chapter 4, The Great Secret of Musashi. There is something here that most people don't consider when they hear about solitude. Christian's transformation wasn't about learning to be alone. It was about learning to be with himself. And there is a massive difference between those two experiences. Being alone can be a prison. When you are physically alone but inside you keep running, filling the void with binge-watching, social media, alcohol, shopping, or anything that prevents true silence from arriving. That is not Hitori. That is isolation disguised as autonomy. Being with yourself is a completely different experience. It is when silence stops being a threat and starts being company. It is when you discover that the one person you needed to make peace with the most was there the entire time, on the inside. It is when you stop needing an audience to exist. Musashi spent years isolated, not because he hated people, not because he had given up on the world, but because only in radical silence could he hear what truly mattered. He could separate what belonged to him from what belonged to others. He could see, with absolute clarity, who he was when nobody was looking, and what he wrote upon stepping out of that cave changed Japanese thought for centuries. The Dokkōdō is not the manual of a bitter man. It is the legacy of someone who found peace in a place where most people never look, inside himself. The question Musashi leaves for anyone who reads the Dokkōdō, the question Mario left for Christian, and that now remains for you, is this: what would you discover about yourself if you stopped, for a real period of time, chasing the approval of the world. Chapter 5. The Transformation. The 90 days were not linear. Christian took 2 steps forward, and sometimes 1 step back. There were nights when his friends called, and the old voice returned. That familiar tightness in his chest, that twisted logic saying, "Go, otherwise they'll forget you. Go, otherwise they'll think you've changed. Go, otherwise you'll regret staying home." On some of those nights he gave in. He arrived late. He woke up the next day with the weight of the old pattern, feeling like he had moved backward. But something had changed at a deeper level. He could now see the mechanism working. He could identify in real time the exact moment the need for approval took control. And even when he gave in, he knew exactly what was happening. And that in itself was a form of freedom he had never possessed before. In the following weeks, the no's began to happen. First, for small things. A happy hour on a Friday when Bella had asked him to be home. To a group dinner he declined, so he could spend the afternoon with his kids in the backyard. An impulsive purchase he held back on. An expensive pair of sneakers triggered by a photo an acquaintance had posted, which just 2 days prior would have gone straight into his shopping cart without a second thought. Each no was uncomfortable, but each no was also a small victory. More than that, each no was proof to himself that his identity no longer depended on the approval of the group to stand on its own 2 feet. With Bella, the change was gradual. She didn't celebrate right away. There were years of accumulated disappointments, and trust is not rebuilt in a month. But she noticed. She noticed he arrived home on time. She noticed his phone stayed on the table during dinner, face down. She noticed he was present in a way that hadn't happened in a very long time. One night, while they were watching a movie after the kids went to sleep, Bella reached out and took his hand on the couch. She didn't say a word, but Christian understood everything. When the 90 days were up, Christian and Bella sat on the porch of their house on a Sunday afternoon. The kids were playing in the yard. The phone was inside the house, forgotten on top of the dresser. Bella asked him how he was feeling. He thought before answering. And he said something that 3 months earlier would have been impossible. "I'm good, just that, good." Not because the words were difficult, but because that state of mind simply didn't exist in him before. Not, "I'm good because my friends called me." Not, "I'm good because my post did well." Not, "I'm good because someone told me I'm special." Just good, on the inside, on his own. What Christian learned over those 90 days goes far beyond a story of a saved marriage. He learned that the need for validation grows exactly where identity was never built. That when you don't know who you are without the gaze of others, you spend your entire life borrowing a reflection that will never belong to you. He learned that the Dokkōdō is not about becoming an island. It is about becoming a foundation, someone who can be with people, truly, with real presence, because they don't depend on them to exist. He learned that Hitori is a daily practice, that eating alone, walking alone, and thinking alone are not signs that something is wrong. They are training ground. They are the exercise of being a complete person without needing an audience to feel whole. He learned that Sejaku, that deep silence he avoided so much, was never empty. It was full of answers he never had the courage to hear. And that the biggest turning points of his life began not when someone told him what to do, but when he finally became quiet enough to listen to himself. And he learned from Musashi that the person you need to make peace with the most, the only approval that actually matters, is inside you. And it always has been. Christian saved his marriage. But more than that, he found something he had lost long before Bella ever uttered the word divorce. He found himself. And you? When was the last time you were left alone with your own thoughts, without an escape, without a screen, without the comfort of approval, and simply existed? Perhaps that is the most important question you will carry with you today. If you made it this far, you don't just want to watch a story. You want the change that Christian found. But remember, knowledge without application is just a distraction. Therefore, the moment you close this video, your training begins. Here is your step-by-step manual for the next 3 weeks, inspired by the Dokkōdō, Hitori, and Seijaku. Step 1. The Validation Fast. Week 1. Starting tomorrow, you will build a barrier between your waking mind and the outside world. For the first 30 minutes of your day, your phone stays on airplane mode. Do not look at notifications. Do not reply to messages. Do not check likes. Use this time to have your coffee, look at the people in your home, or simply breathe. Your day needs to begin from within, not from the reflection of others. Step 2. The Hitori training, week 2. In the second week, you are going to schedule an appointment with yourself. Choose an activity to do completely alone for at least 40 minutes. It could be walking in a park, going to a cafe, or having lunch. The real challenge: you are forbidden from wearing headphones and forbidden from documenting the moment. If you take a picture to post it, the exercise is void. Feel the discomfort of the first few minutes and wait for the dust to settle. Learn to inhabit your own reality without needing a crowd. Step 3. Cultivating Sejaku, week 3. Every single night before going to sleep, you will set aside just 5 minutes. Turn off the television, turn off the lights, and sit in silence on your bed. No music, no guided meditation, no screens. Just you and your thoughts. Allow the questions you avoided all day to finally surface. Do not try to answer them immediately. Just have the courage to listen to them. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. This might feel difficult at first. It will cause a tightness in your chest, a sudden urge to grab your phone, but persist. It is precisely within that discomfort that your identity, the one you set aside to please the world, begins to wake up. Choose one of these steps to start today, and over time you will realize that the only approval you truly needed to walk in peace was always with you. If this video touched something inside you, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Because here, every week, we dive deep into philosophies that have the power to change the way you live, think, and relate. And if you want to continue this journey, watch the video appearing right here on the screen. Remember to watch and apply the teachings of this channel, because knowledge that stays only in your head transforms absolutely nothing. And remember, be present, walk with honor, follow the path. Until the next video.